Here we go. Welcome to episode 23 of Three Things with JR. I am so happy to be back and talking to you again. I am thoroughly enjoying recording this podcast, putting it out, and finally getting some feedback on it. People are listening. Listenership is growing slowly but surely, and that makes me really happy. I am here all by my lonesome today, kind of how the podcast started with just me talking into a mic, saying things that are on my mind. That's the whole deal with Three Things with JR. It's just things that I'm thinking about that I wanted to tell you. So we're going to get right into it here. This is thing number one, where we usually go deep, something kind of meaningful, important, not trivial or flippant. And so that's what we're going to do. Thing number one this week is Pascal's wager. You know, I understand Pascal's wager a little bit better now. And for those that don't know, Pascal's wager is it's basically the premise that it's a safer bet that God does exist than that God does not exist. If he does exist and you don't believe, you're kind of screwed. If he does not exist and you do believe, no harm, no foul. So why not believe? That's the whole premise of Pascal's wager. And it's kind of like how differently people are approaching the coronavirus. For those of you that hate the burps, sorry, they're going to continue because they crack me up. If you don't believe the coronavirus exists and you live your life as if there is no coronavirus and it turns out you are wrong, the consequences could be deadly for you and others. But if you believe it does exist and you live a safer, more careful life and it turns out you were wrong, well, what harm have you caused? That's sort of the parallel that I'm drawing with Pascal's wager and what I'm calling the corona wager. So here's the thing. Pascal's wager regarding the existence of God and the coronavirus wager is exactly the same thing, but different. What's the difference? Evidence. Cold, hard evidence. We have actual scientific evidence that coronavirus exists and that it is deadly to many. People have gotten it and died from it, so we know it exists. We may have major disagreements about how to deal with it, how widespread it is, whether or not we should be shutting down the whole world to deal with it, but we know it exists, and people have died from it. Evidence is the difference between God and COVID. I'm not aware of any hard scientific evidence that God exists, period. So Pascal's wager does not really work for me. I don't think it works at all. Since a belief in God requires faith, and faith is belief in something for which there is no evidence. Otherwise, you don't need faith. Faith in God, in my opinion, is a mental and emotional response to an experience. That varies from human to human. People that believe in God or have faith don't think there's a lack of evidence, since their experience has proven to them the existence of God. Anyone that has not had that God experience isn't going to believe and cannot will themselves to truly believe. So Pascal's wager kind of doesn't work because it's not a simple choice. It's either something you believe and have faith in or you don't. A belief in coronavirus, however, does not require faith since we have evidence. So what do we do with this information? Well, those that have faith in God do different things with it. Some people become better people and need it to be their best selves. Others use it to judge, to justify war, death, genital mutilation, and other atrocities, and more. That seems like a pretty horrible side effect of the faith required for a belief in God. On the other side, for many, believing that coronavirus exists causes them to wear masks, washes their hands more often, and be more conscientious regarding the health and safety of others. The worst that's happening as a result of people responding to evidence of a pandemic is that they are taking very drastic measures to protect millions of people by eliminating or at least minimizing opportunities for the virus to spread. This means that large gatherings have to be minimized or made to be more safe. Restaurants, movie theaters, sports, live music, comedy, and more have all been modified or eliminated while we get through this, and that sucks. It sucks for all the people out of work or making significantly less than normal. It sucks for all of us that use those things as a way to stay happy and sane on a daily basis. It just sucks. But it's better than dying, which would happen more if we bet on it not being real. So what I don't really understand are the people that fall on the faith in God side of Pascal's wager, but on the doubting Thomas side of the coronavirus issue. But I guess I really shouldn't be all that surprised because in both cases, science is being ignored. So, yeah. And on that note, we'll go to a drum solo. I'll be back in a minute. We're back, and it's time for thing number 2. We have a little bit more fun with thing number 2 because it's all about music and pop culture and fun stuff like that. And today it's all about the fantastic Negrito. A few years ago on Spotify, it suggested a new artist for me. Spotify is pretty good at that. It recommends music that it thinks I will like based on the music that I actually listen to. And I don't listen to everything Spotify suggests. I mean, sometimes I just want to listen to what I want to listen to. But when I do try new stuff and it's good, that's pretty great. And of course, the name Fantastic Negrito is quite an interesting name, so it really kind of caught my eye when it was recommended. And I must have been in an adventurous mood that day. Now, I don't speak French, so I don't know exactly what Fantastic Negrito means, but basically, he's a really great little black guy. Fast forward to this week, and Fantastic Negrito has released a new album, and it rocks. The album is called Have You Lost Your Mind Yet? Seems quite appropriate for 2020. Fantastic Negrito shreds on the guitar, writes heartfelt lyrics that he sings with passion, and he makes you want to dance all at the same time. The mix really has the subwoofer in my car rattling my rearview mirror just the way I like it. Now, I've not yet listened to the whole album, but the first 4 songs I've listened to several times, and they are simply, well, fantastic. Especially the opening track. It's called Chocolate Samurai. You know you want to listen now. Just go do it. Thing number 3. Driving on the right side of the road. When I was learning to drive, my Uncle Bob let me drive his little Volkswagen Rabbit on the back roads of rural Ohio. No yellow lines, very few curves. Yet Bob refused to let me drive in the middle of the road, even though it felt safer and more natural. I mean, you could see like for miles that there were no cars coming the other way. Nothing to avoid in the middle of the road. But Bob was adamant that I drive on the right side of the road, so I did, because I wanted to drive his car. I always want to drive, especially cars I've never driven before. So it was a small price to pay, and as a result, I retained this habit of staying on the right side of the road. I just do. I stay on the right side regardless of the existence of yellow lines. It does not matter if cars are coming or not. Straight or curved roads, doesn't matter. I drive on the right side of the road. I got a new car recently. It's a 2020 Subaru Crosstrek, and it's got all the fancy modern technology. It's got adaptive cruise control, collision avoidance, and lane departure warnings. My car lets me know if I start to drift out of my lane or across the yellow lines. And as meticulous as I am about staying on the right side, my car seems to care even more about it than I do. And I'm surprised that this doesn't annoy me at all. It's made me even better about keeping right. This is apparently not normal. So many other drivers do not seem to feel it's all that important to stay on the right side of the road. I know people that purposely drive in the middle of the road whenever they can. I see people take blind curves on backcountry roads while straddling the yellow lines. It's freaking ridiculous. So when I see a driver that is fastidious about staying on their side of the road, I am impressed. I was driving to work the other day on a 2-lane curvy road, Buck Mountain Road, for those of you in the Charlottesville, Albemarle area, and I was behind an 18-wheeler. Normally, this would be very aggravating. An 18-wheeler on a road like this, typically they will drive slower, and they'll be all over the place. There's no way to do anything about it. You can't pass them. You can't speed up. You just kind of stuck behind a slow truck, And a big 18-wheeler trying to stay on the right side of the road on a curvy road like that is next to impossible. Yet this guy nailed it. He was driving 45 to 50 miles an hour. The speed limit's 45. That's all I can ask for. You can't be an 18-wheeler going much faster than that on Buck Mountain Road. And I was behind him, and I was not frustrated because he was going fast enough. And an 18-wheeler going the speed limit on this road and also staying on the right side of the road. Like, he barely touched the yellow lines a couple times on some curves. Never went across them. Never once did I feel like he was doing anything other than keeping that truck as far on the right side of the road as he could. And, man, it was just a sight to see. It was a work of art. This guy was a good driver. He's awesome. So let that be a lesson to anybody that thinks it can't be done. If you're unable to keep your car on the right side of the road, you are doing it wrong. And this guy was doing it right. And according to my Subaru Crosstrek, I'm doing it right like 99% of the time. Every now and then, it lets me know. And I get right back on the right side of the road. And I've become a better driver because of it. So stay on the right side of the road, people. Thank you so much for listening to Three Things. I'm your host, JR. Over and out. I'll see you next week.